Have you ever found yourself in the role of the silent supporter, the steadfast presence, the individual who gave selflessly, offered assistance, and remained faithful, only to witness your family ridicule you, betray your confidence, and reduce you to merely a source of financial support? In this tale, you will discover how silence transforms into your most formidable weapon, how betrayal cultivates unforeseen karma, and how, at times, the most satisfying revenge lies in reclaiming what was rightfully yours. Remain until the conclusion, for Hunter's actions will challenge all your preconceived notions regarding loyalty, family, and justice. And remember, if this story resonates with you as profoundly as it did with us, please give it a like, share it with someone who could benefit from its message, and subscribe to ensure you never miss another narrative of subtle resilience transforming into formidable strength. My name is Hunter, and at 29, I've consistently been the anchor in my family. I was the one who ventured out early, financed my own education, maintained steady employment, and never arrived at Christmas seeking financial help. I prefer a subtle and understated presence. I tend to be the one who observes rather than engages in conversation, the individual who maintains a low profile while diligently attending to my responsibilities. That likely facilitated their ability to exploit me throughout the years, as I never raised my voice, never confronted them, never created a disturbance. Until I finally did. It began many years prior, quietly at first, as is often the case with betrayals. Upon returning home for the holidays, my arms laden with gifts, I would inevitably be greeted by my mother's icy glares and my brother Max's sharp, teasing remarks. He is 2 years my junior, perpetually the favored one. Despite his failures in 2 colleges, his arrest for a bar fight, and his erratic job history, my parents continued to gaze at him as if he had strung the stars across the night sky. In that moment, I found myself enveloped in a shroud of seriousness, a veil of distance, and an overwhelming sensitivity. Regardless of my actions, birthday checks for the more arrogant seemed to grant him a certain power, as if being the sole son residing close by conferred upon him an air of authority. I recall entering with an armful of presents, only to be met with the quip, "Did you finally get a haircut? Or has someone finally taken pity on you and asked you out?" I brushed it aside with a chuckle, just as I always did. Yet within, a fracture emerged. It has been 3 years since that moment. I ought to have spoken up in that moment, established a boundary. However, I chose not to. I thought to myself, after all, it's family. They're in mourning. They find themselves under considerable strain. They lack sincerity. Thus, I remained silent, maintained a spirit of generosity, remained steadfast. With each passing year, the wounds grew more profound. In the previous year, everything began to come apart at the seams. In the month of May, I received a call from my mother. Her voice was bright and lively, as if she were reciting lines from a carefully crafted script. She mentioned that Max Kevin had come across an incredible business opportunity, an intriguing new real estate venture proposed by a friend, and he simply required assistance to get it off the ground. What she intended to convey was that it represented a $35,000 investment. She mentioned that they were using the house as partial collateral, and since my name remained on the deed from when I assisted in paying off the mortgage, it would prove beneficial. I approached the situation with care, yet I acted foolishly. She maintained that it was merely a fleeting circumstance, merely a matter of documentation. I found myself reluctant to assume the role of the villain, the unappreciative son who would dare to refuse after all the sacrifices she made in my upbringing. I consented, but only under one stipulation. If circumstances shifted, I reserved the right to withdraw my name. She consented. Max Kevin mumbled a thank you over the speakerphone, already en route to Vegas, I believe. By September, I discovered that the business was nothing more than a glorified flipping scheme, poorly managed and riddled with half-finished homes and relentless debt collectors. I inquired of Max Kevin about the events that transpired, and he had the audacity to respond, "It's your fault for not assisting sooner. You might have had the opportunity to enter at the very beginning." In that instant, I resolved that I had reached my limit. I've kept it to myself, but I've begun discussions with a lawyer. In hushed tones, we examined the original agreement, the joint deed, and all the accompanying documents. It appears that, due to my financing exceeding 70% of the home's value, coupled with my mother and Max Kevin's default on a second mortgage, I found myself in a position of legal leverage. A considerable amount of it, particularly when the bank raised a red flag on my name during a refinance attempt that Max Kevin orchestrated without my knowledge. He attempted to peddle shares in a home that he did not even own. The lawyer stated, "You possess every right to safeguard your investment, particularly given that you were deceived." For the very first time, I resolved to do more than merely safeguard it. I would take it back. By mid-December, all was prepared and in place. The house, which had once borne the names of all three of us, now stood solely in my name. Thanks to a clause unearthed by my lawyer within the depths of the original refinancing paperwork, I possessed the complete authority to terminate their rights of use and expel them as legal occupants, should I choose to do so. That, in itself, left me feeling uneasy. Yet, in that moment, an event unfolded that obliterated any lingering doubt. A festive Christmas brunch I had no intention of attending. I reassured myself that the trouble wasn't worth it. The insincere grins, the sharp remarks masquerading as humor. Yet my aunt, the sole person who ever made me feel valued, extended an invitation for me to come. She remarked, "It's merely brunch, Hunter. Perhaps this year will unfold in a new way." It was not. I arrived bearing a bottle of wine and a pie procured from the store. I was taken aback by the warmth of the welcome I received. Yet, I found myself unexpectedly taken aback by the biting chill in the air. My mother scarcely lifted her gaze from her chair. Max Kevin offered a sly smirk upon spotting me and remarked, "Look who remembered where we live." Sen enveloped me in her embrace. May she be blessed. Yet, all around me, it felt as though I were an outsider intruding upon a gathering that was not meant for me. They had already begun their meal. No one reserved a place for me. I found myself at the far end of the table, beside the piano that had long been silenced. We navigated the terrain of scrambled eggs and obligatory dialogue. Then Max Kevin rose to his feet, a glass of champagne elegantly in hand. He cleared his throat and tapped the fork against it as if he were about to make a toast. "To family," he proclaimed, "and to shedding the unnecessary, beginning with you." He lifted his glass high. Peals of laughter erupted throughout the room. My mother let out a soft laugh. Even my cousin joined in the applause. My fingers tightened around the fork. I scanned the room, anticipating the moment when someone would declare it all a jest. It had ventured beyond the limits. Yet, not a soul did. Thus, a smile graced my lips. The space was constricted, perhaps a touch overly serene. I delved into the depths of my bag. Not merely a briefcase. Nothing particularly dramatic. It's merely an ordinary canvas tote that I used to carry gifts. I retrieved a pristine folder and glided it across the table's surface. Max Kevin tilted his head slightly. My mother blinked. "Ah, the timing is impeccable," I remarked. They regarded it as though it were a menu. Then, Max Kevin unsealed it, and the hue faded from his visage. Within lay the notarized deed to the house. Their names, which once graced the list beneath mine, have now been officially expunged. It was affixed with a signature, sealed with intent, and bound by the law. A full 10 seconds elapsed in silence before a single word was uttered. What could this possibly be? Max Kevin snapped, his voice climbing in intensity. My mother appeared as though she had encountered a specter. With hands that quivered, she extended them forward, her eyes darting across the pages. "You can't do this," she stammered. "I have already completed that task." I spoke, my demeanor unruffled. Aunt Helen leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "What have you just done?" Max Kevin pushed his chair away with such force that it collided with the wall. "Do you truly believe you can simply exclude us in such a manner? After all that we have sacrificed for you?" I rose gradually, sliding my chair back into place. "No, I'm not excluding you. At long last, I am repaying the kindness bestowed upon me." And just as Max Kevin's face flushed with embarrassment, just as my mother prepared to either plead, curse, or weep, the doorbell chimed. I remained unyielding. I remained motionless, observing as they all halted, the chime reverberating through the space. The atmosphere was so charged it felt as if one could cut through it with the steak knives that clattered against the remnants of ham and sweet potatoes on the half-empty plates. Max Kevin's gaze flickered between the folder and the door, as if caught in a tumultuous battle between the instinct to scream and the urge to flee. My mother gazed at me, her mouth slightly agape, her expression vacant, reminiscent of the look one wears upon discovering that their safety nets have suddenly ignited. My aunt gradually lifted herself from her seat, a sense of reluctance evident in her movements. "I'll take care of it," I replied, a faint smile playing on my lips as I turned toward the door, as if it were just another ordinary Sunday morning. I unsealed it. Two men clad in uniforms stood before us, not law enforcement, though Max's face certainly paled as if they were. No, these individuals were private security, contracted through the firm I had been collaborating with for months. I inquired with my lawyer about the proper approach to take, not from a place of malice, but from a desire for accuracy. In accordance with the law, guided by ethics, sound in finances, and unblemished. Mr. Donnelly, the one with the height advantage, inquired. "That is indeed me." I inclined my head in agreement. "Step inside." As they entered, they graciously lifted their hats, embodying the essence of professionalism. My mother inhaled sharply, while Max Kevin appeared poised to leap over the table. "What could this possibly be?" He let out a sharp bark. "What is it?" "It seems you require the protection of bodyguards at this moment." "No," I stated, my voice unwavering. "The official documents have arrived for delivery. Effective immediately, your access to the property has been revoked. You are required to leave within the next 72 hours. Stillness, an overwhelming, profound silence envelopes the space. The clatter of utensils had come to a halt. My aunt sat there, a forkful of eggs suspended in midair, her expression caught in a moment of stillness. Max Kevin has finally reached his breaking point. It is not acceptable to simply expel us. That is our sanctuary. "No, Max Kevin," I said, as I made my way back to the table. "It belonged to me. You resided there without paying rent for nearly 3 years. You took my name, my reputation, and my trust, only to turn around and betray me. This is a notice of eviction. This is the moment when justice finally arrives." My mother's voice trembled. "Aaron, if you would be so kind. This is your kin." I pivoted towards her with deliberate slowness. "I felt the same way, until you transformed me into a walking bank account." She recoiled as if I had struck her, yet I found no reason to feel remorse. "This time, it shall not be so." I settled back into my seat and gently filled a glass with water. The security guards delivered the envelopes with a sense of duty. One for Max Kevin, one for my mother, and I stood quietly by the front door, anticipation hanging in the air. Courteous, reserved, and adept. "Text, I have settled the mortgage," I declared. "I managed to keep the house running after my father's passing. I also documented the second loan that Max Kevin secured in my name to finance that real estate scheme. Do you recall that? The documentation that was overlooked by everyone?" My mother shook her head. "You failed to grasp the situation. Desperation consumed us." "No," I interjected. "You felt a sense of entitlement. You anticipated that I would bear your weight. And in my moment of hesitation, you chose to mock me. Mocked me openly. Declared that I was nothing but a burden." Max Kevin rose from the table with determination. "What comes next? So, you simply get to assume the role of king? Do you really believe we would simply walk away?" "You needn't go," I remarked, taking a sip of the water. "This place is not meant for you to linger." His fists tightened into hard, unyielding balls. "You insufferable little." "Don't," my aunt warned, her voice cutting through the room with a chilling sharpness. "Do not even think about it. This is a consequence of your own actions." That caused Max Kevin to hesitate. He blinked at her, as if grappling with the uncertainty of which side she was meant to represent. Her gaze met mine, silent yet resolute. "Indeed, Aaron, you have a point. It is with a heavy heart that I find myself in this situation." I inclined my head in agreement. I did as well. Max Kevin burst from the room, his words a low murmur of frustration. My mom just sat there, gazing at the documents before her as if they were inscribed in an unfamiliar tongue. I rose once more, carefully adjusting my shirt. 3 days remain. Following that, the locks will be replaced. If you find yourself in need, I can arrange for movers to assist you. It isn't a matter of personal feelings, yet it stands as a definitive conclusion. I began to walk away. As I approached the door, I hesitated for a moment and cast a lingering look behind me. "Ah, and Max Kevin," I mentioned, "there's just one more thing." He paused midway on the staircase, casting a fierce glare over the railing. "I have also withdrawn from the business loan cosign. The bank will reach out to you on Monday morning. You may want to consider responding to that inquiry." His complexion drained of color. I chose not to linger for a response. Stepping outside, I embraced the crisp, invigorating air, inhaled deeply, and allowed a smile to spread across my face. After years of feeling like a mere observer, I finally stepped into the spotlight of my own narrative. A sense of liberation washed over me. I delayed my journey home. I lingered in the car, the engine silent, my gaze fixed on the wreath that hung askew on their front door. The identical one I purchased for them last year. Crafted by hand, costly, the kind that would have elicited a heartfelt gush from my mother. At that moment, it appeared utterly out of place, as if it were grasping onto a semblance of this family that had long since faded away. My hands trembled, but not out of fear. From the moment of release, from releasing the years I had dedicated to carefully navigating their moods, their barbs, their criticisms. It felt peculiar. I found no sorrow within me. Anger had slipped away from me, leaving only a calm stillness in its wake. A sense of clarity washed over me. The soft vibration of my phone interrupted the stillness. A message from Aunt Helen. You acted in accordance with necessity. I will come by tomorrow to assist in sorting through your dad's belongings before they are disposed of. Though they may not grasp it, I certainly do. And I take great pride in you. The final line struck with an intensity one hadn't anticipated. I gazed at it for what felt like an eternity. Your accomplishments fill me with pride. The memory of the last time a family member uttered those words eludes me. My mother never did. Not even at the moment I completed my college journey ahead of schedule. Not at the moment I settled my debts. Not when I remitted funds to her each month, never probing for answers. Max Kevin often found himself uttering that line, following his initial employment, following each unsuccessful venture, even after being taken into custody. Yet, what about me? Silence enveloped me. Up to this moment, I replied with a brief expression of gratitude. Tomorrow is suitable. I lingered for an additional 8 minutes, observing as snowflakes began to cascade gently over the hood. The world outside lay in a serene hush, a silence that resonates with a sacredness. I hesitated, reluctant to shatter the stillness by igniting the engine. Yet, a thought flickered in my mind, the storage unit. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, I began the process of carefully packing away some of the more significant belongings from the house. Silently, with utmost respect, I had bided my time until Max, Kevin, and my mother had all departed, engaged movers with utmost discretion. The collection of records belonging to Dad, their weathered medals from days gone by, the images captured during our hiking adventures. Everything is securely confined now, protected. I had no intention of leaving those behind for Max Kevin to peddle in yet another crisis. With a twist of the key, the engine sprang to life, its roar echoing in the stillness. I drove away from the driveway without a glance back. The following day, I encountered Aunt Helen at the residence. Max Kevin was absent. The car had vanished, most likely out there persuading someone to lend him money to rectify the irreparable. My mother opened the door, her eyes swollen and her expression vacant. Silence enveloped her, words unspoken. He simply stepped aside, allowing us to pass with ease. The furniture remained undisturbed. The garland remained steadfastly attached to the banister. Yet, the atmosphere felt distinct, heavy with bitterness, stagnant in astonishment. I will simply be collecting Dad's belongings, I said softly. Feel free to retain all other items. Her lips quivered, yet silence enveloped her. She offered a single, deliberate nod. We toiled in quietude. With Helen's assistance, we hoisted the aged wooden chest from its dusty resting place beneath the stairs, the very chest that held Dad's cherished journals. The framed family photo that once graced the wall above the fireplace was carefully removed. The sole moment captured where all 4 of us wore smiles, a time untouched by wealth, untainted by resentment, before I became the one set apart. Cradling the frame in my hands, I became aware of a detail that had previously eluded my notice. A slender fissure in the glass bisecting my visage. Appropriate. As the afternoon sun began to wane, we carefully stowed the final items into my car. Helen embraced me warmly. You will experience guilt, she remarked, for that is the essence of what noble souls embody. However, do not confuse guilt with regret. I inclined my head in agreement. I am aware. I simply long for. She completed my thought, noting that they were indeed different. Indeed. Same here. We lingered in that moment, suspended in time. With a final wave, I slipped into my car and made my way directly to the storage unit. The space was modest, meticulously maintained, and climate-controlled, just ample enough to cradle the fragments of my father that lingered in memory. With careful precision, I arranged the boxes in a tidy manner, draped a cloth over the worn armchair that once cradled him during his morning ritual of reading the paper, and positioned the framed photograph, with its imperfections, upon the highest shelf. As I prepared to depart, I secured the door and lingered for a brief moment, key poised in my grasp. A sense of finality enveloped the moment, catching me off guard. It had evolved beyond merely safeguarding memories. I found myself shutting a door that had long needed to be closed. As the clock struck 8 that evening, my phone erupted with notifications. Max Kevin. Messages piling up, one after another. He let out a piercing scream. The initial ones were filled with rage. Menaces concerning attorneys. How I had tarnished the spirit of Christmas. How can one betray their own kin like this? Then arrived the surge of panic. He had visited the bank, only to find that they had frozen the refinance. His credit was plummeting. He claimed I had no right to shatter his existence in such a manner. What about the final one? He wept. I'm at a loss, my friend. They are about to seize my truck. Mother weeps. It's hard to fathom that you would choose this path with me. I chose not to reply. I also did not erase the voicemails. I rescued them, resembling trophies, not from a place of cruelty, but rather as gentle reminders from whence I originated, from what I fled. The aftermath was far from over. Not at this moment. The genuine eruption? 2 days later, the sheriff's notice arrived at their door, and the family group chat erupted into a frenzy, buzzing like a disturbed wasp nest. 2 days later, the notice was personally delivered, officially recognized, agreed upon. Concluding, I was not present when the event unfolded, yet news of it reached me swiftly, thanks to a family group chat that had long been neglected in my notifications. The group, initially formed to coordinate birthday celebrations and festive gatherings, had erupted with all the finesse of a gas leak igniting near an open flame. The initial communication arrived from my cousin in Illinois. Aaron, what is happening? At that moment, my mother interjected. This family has been subjected to humiliation. I trust you take pride in your accomplishments. Max Kevin continued with it. This is beneath you, even by your standards. Do you wish to discuss burdens that hold us back? Gaze into the reflection before you. I chose not to reply. I silenced the notifications and continued to savor my coffee. Yet, the unfolding drama was far from over. Later that afternoon, I received a call from the attorney I had engaged to manage the transfer. She mentioned that my mother had reached out to her office on 2 separate occasions. Once weeping, once there was a shout, and had charged her with the manipulation of her unfortunate son, driving him into a state of homelessness. It seems that my mother had already made her way to City Hall to lodge a complaint. She sought to contest the validity of the deed alteration and overturn the eviction. Yet, what she failed to grasp was that each and every action I had taken was meticulously recorded, officially certified, and impeccably secure. Video recordings captured her as she signed the transfer papers. Voicemails and texts surfaced, revealing Max Kevin's unauthorized endeavor to refinance in my name. Every single dime I had invested in that house was meticulously documented with receipts. From the initial down payment to the repairs I financed following the roof collapse 5 years ago, my lawyer stated unequivocally that should she persist in her threats of legal action, a countersuit for fraud would follow. At that moment, everything became deeply personal. A week later, I discovered that she had begun to inform extended family members that I had forged her signature and stolen the house. She asserted that I was intent on dismantling the remnants of our family. Initially, I chose to overlook it. They hardly knew me at all. However, one of my mother's cousins contacted me to inform me, just so you know, she is attempting to turn the entire family against you. She even claimed that you influenced your father to grant you authority over the house. That crossed the line. Father was revered, the sole individual who truly grasped the essence of my being, or made an attempt to. I understood that the true cause of my mother's distress was not merely the loss of a home. It was due to her loss of control. For years, she ensnared me in a web of guilt, holding my emotions captive. She employed expressions such as, "After all I've done for you, consider yourself fortunate that I chose not to abandon you." She never laid a hand on me, never uttered a cry. Yet she had perfected the craft of dismantling me with a gentle, insidious malice. Thus, I executed my last maneuver. I composed a letter addressed to each extended family member who had been drawn into her drama. This is not a rant, not even the taste of revenge, only the facts. I meticulously crafted the timeline. Enclosed are the copies of the deed transfer, images capturing the bank transactions I've completed throughout the years, the refinancing documents that Max Kevin attempted to covertly introduce. I refrained from adding any personal commentary. I allow the truth to articulate itself. In the closing lines of the letter, I stated, I'm not seeking sympathy. I request a moment of quietude. I kindly ask for your understanding regarding my decision to distance myself from a situation that has long been exhausting for me. Should you find yourself drawn to choose a side, it seems you have overlooked the essence of the matter. Several family members responded with subtle encouragement. Many chose to remain quiet. That was acceptable. I had long since abandoned the pursuit of popularity contests. Max Kevin found temporary refuge at a friend's abode for a while. Whispers reached my ears that he had attempted to stay with a woman he had seen intermittently, an individual unaware of his financial tendencies. Within a week, she expelled him from her life after discovering he had pilfered cash from her purse to indulge in scratch-off tickets. In the end, he found himself in a rental. It leaves much to be desired. Cohabited with two housemates. Neither appeared particularly enthusiastic about sharing their space with someone who struggled to maintain employment for longer than 6 weeks. In February, his truck was taken back by the lender. I discovered the situation only after he unleashed a fervent rant on Facebook, tagging the bank and laying blame for the devastation of a veteran's life. How ironic, given that he never spent a single day in service. My mother ultimately took residence with my Aunt Elena in Indiana, the woman who once declared, I prefer death over a life away from my home. Currently residing in a guest bedroom adorned with floral wallpaper within a house that features a solitary bathroom. After her move, she pinned a lengthy email to me, certainly not to express regret. That would be out of the question. However, let me elaborate. To share her perspective, she pinned her reflections on the profound challenges that followed the passing of her father. How frightened she felt, how isolated, how Max Kevin remained the sole one still near, and how she held on to him, gripped by her own trepidation. She remarked, perhaps I distanced myself from you without even being aware of it. And she longed for the gentle boy who once brought me tea during my times of illness. The screen held my gaze for what felt like an eternity. Perused the message on 2 occasions. In that moment, I chose to erase it. Silence lingers. For the simple reason that I was that boy. And she held on to me. She surrendered herself to me, piece by piece. In each fleeting moment, she prioritized Max Kevin's comfort above my dignity. Each time she labeled me selfish for establishing my boundaries. In the quiet moments, each glance spoke volumes as I faced the sting of insult at the table. Each birthday slips away unnoticed. Why can't you emulate your brother more? Some losses unfold gradually. They unfold gradually. That spring, I parted ways with the house. I contemplated holding on to it, leasing it, perhaps even residing within it. Yet, as the room stood vacant and the vibrant energy dissipated, a realization dawned upon me. It always lacked the warmth of belonging. It was a realm I upheld out of obligation, a tribute to those who regarded me as an outsider. The transaction unfolded seamlessly. I secured an excellent deal. The market remained elevated. I allocated the majority of it into a trust. Subsequently, a portion was allocated to acquire a quaint cabin nestled just beyond the city's borders. Silence, enveloped in greenery. Tranquil. A setting that would have captured my father's heart. I held on to his journals, the medals he earned. I affixed the photograph of us, the one featuring the shattered glass, high above the hearth in the rustic cabin. This is the sole photograph I've chosen to display throughout the entire home. At times, I meander through the forest that lies behind the cabin, reflecting on the journey that has brought me to this point. In the past, I held the notion that forgiveness was synonymous with allowing others to inflict pain repeatedly, waiting for them to choose to cease their actions. Now I understand that forgiveness embodies the essence of safeguarding your tranquility, even if it requires stepping away. And I indeed walked away, emerging from the weight of remorse, emerging from the manipulation, from the family who perceived me merely as a source of financial support, devoid of any deeper connection. In this moment, I embrace my holidays with the freedom to shape them as I desire. Last Christmas, I prepared a serene dinner for just myself and Aunt Helen, who had flown in for a visit. We savored wine by the flickering firelight. She presented me with a handwritten collection of my father's cherished recipes. I handed her the deed to the car she had been using ever since her engine failed last year. She wept. I did not, though I came perilously close. This year, when Max Kevin reached out from a new number, he left a lengthy voicemail that began with, "Man, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I was wondering if you could help me out just one more time." I barely made it through the listening experience. I simply smiled, erased it, and returned to savoring my coffee. For in certain moments, the most profound form of retribution lies not in what you seize from others. It's about what you cease to offer them.